Y'all, I am recording a long time coming episode of the show with an incredible phenom that I have had a professional crush on for, I don't know, how many days exactly has it been since we met? Like 374 because it was last year. And yeah, I've just been like in love and have felt like I felt like everyone felt the summer that Barbie came out, and it was like there's a Barbie for everyone. And I just feel like this woman who you're going to meet on the show is like my Barbie. She's like the Barbie that I want to be. And has anyone ever called you that?
No, it's
Probably
so
not.
sweet.
I just made it up just now. I am so excited to introduce y'all, BA fam, to my guest today. Her name is Kanoa Greene. She is the incredible founder of a plus sized adventure community. But I do want to introduce her to you guys and just say that if this is the face of what adventure and travel looks like, there ain't nothing we can't do. There is nothing we can't do, BA fam. So welcome, Kanoa, to the Brown Ambition podcast.
Thank you for having me. I am so excited, and honestly, a Barbie reference.
What would you call yourself? I feel like plus size is so like, it's useful. It was a title foisted upon us, I feel like,
Yes.
ever
Yep.
since I was 8 years old shopping in a whole different section of Sears.
I think when first was creating this, I didn't have plus size as part of it, but the issue was the people that it's there for, they wouldn't be able to find it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I consciously wanted to make sure that you knew it was for you. Nakoa is a destination adventure travel company specifically for the plus size community. So the idea that, as a straight size person, we're thinking size 12 and under, that you can go out into any outdoor adventure space, whether that be surfing, skiing, paddleboarding, and you will have the gear, equipment, the resources, instructors to be able to do that thing, right? You may obviously be new to it and need to gain skill set, but you could essentially go into that space and do it. For those who are size 14 above, there is a huge disconnect in that we don't have the gear, equipment, and resources. So something like skiing, snow gear, there is such a lack of sizes that could essentially fit someone like me who's a size 20, 22, 24. I learned how to ski last year. Finding a ski suit that worked for me was tragic.
How? Is there? What did you do?
I ended up finding, and when I tell you I've tried on at least a couple dozen brands,
yeah,
out of those, I maybe found two that were okay. I ended up using just two brands to go skiing with, and that's all I had. When we think of wetsuits, if you wanted to be a scuba diver, if you live in cold water places and you want to surf or paddleboard or kayak, there are no plus size wetsuits readily available for us. So, we don't have the conveniences of just saying, hey, I want to try this new thing and getting out there and doing it. We're really left at a disadvantage. And so Nakoa is there to bridge the gap so that we can get out there and do those things. I think it's great that we inspire. That's what I've done through my platform as me, Kanoa Greene, being representation, but it didn't help anyone actually have the resources to do those things. So that's what Nakoa does, hiking in Switzerland, surfing in Costa Rica. It's really opening up the world for us to get out there and live our best lives.
So tell me exactly, as a plus size person myself, and I have been straight sized and plus and the whole Oprah roller coaster, like I'm on it. Okay. And, yeah. And for me, I remember being even size 12, and I think I was a size 12 when I went skydiving for the first time, and worrying that I was going to be over the weight limit to jump out of the plane, and they give you these jumpsuits to wear, and I was like, are they going to, because everybody is shaped differently, even though, and numbers are not that important, but my body shape, it never seemed to fit in the suits because they were just made for an up and down white guy, I'm sure. And I've got hips and curves, and Oh my God, I have done zip lining. I have been adventurous in my life. I've done zip lining and I went cliff jumping in Brazil and zip lining in Argentina and like all these different, and I've gone with groups of people who over indexed in being white and seem to have gotten some kind of course in outdoor nature travel that I never got as a Black girl growing up in Georgia. And I was always playing catch up and I never felt comfortable in my body, and it just, and the trips were always designed by them and for
Yeah,
them, and I was always like, oh, we needed to wear sneakers today, like I just wear my sandals, I don't even have like hiking boots, like those
that
sandals
part.
that everyone seems
Mm-hmm.
to know how to wear in the wilderness. I don't know what those are. So on your trips, Kanoa, are you promising me if I go to one of your trips that you're going to like stress test the hell out of it first and make sure that
Yeah.
every situation is like we're capable of doing it? There's no question. Are we going to fit? Is this for me? Is that what you're promising? Because that is
Yeah,
like worth
absolutely.
gold.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I was always plus size, and I, unlike you, shied away from doing adventurous things because there was like the absolute terror that I wouldn't fit and feel embarrassed amongst my friends, that I would break something that, the thought of going to someplace and it doesn't fit, like that was so frightening for me that I never even took the
Mm,
leap. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be embarrassed if I don't even try the thing. And I felt like I spent so much of my life just not allowing myself and giving myself permission to try things. And I think that did trickle
mm,
through a lot of aspects of my life. And so for me, I was like, I'm just going to put myself out there and do those things. And then once I realized, oh, I can't actually physically do those things regardless of my shape or size, there might just be a lack of gear. How can I work with instructors and vendors so that I could do this safely and confidently? Then once I figured that out, I was like, oh, I just now need to do it for everyone else, because I truly believe once I gained confidence in my body and my ability to do those really hard things that I thought were legitimately impossible, learning to surf, at 270, 280 pounds, a size 20, 22. And when I conquered that, I realized, what else in my life am I not giving myself permission to step into? It really did change the trajectory for me in my career and the moves that I was making there.
wow. Isn't it wild sometimes to think about how young, at least for me, how young I was when I started to feel like my body was wrong,
Yeah.
And I can think back to like being in elementary school and we had like a adventure course that we were doing, and like the instructor, we climbed up this pole, and it felt like it was 50 feet high. It was probably like 20 feet high. I don't know. And we were supposed to hop down and we were harnessed in, and like the instructor's at the other side and he's like counterweighting the kids, and I was just like, there's no way. I can't do it. I'm too big. I probably weigh more than this guy. And I'm like my 8-year-old brain, it's just it makes me feel like you were saying, this sense of missed opportunities, and like,
Yeah.
you know, how incredible it is, and how we can take it for, or people can take it for granted, just like feeling comfortable in a space. So everything that you stand for and everything your business stands for is just, it's, I'm a little like lost for words because it's just so magical. It's just so incredible. But I shouldn't be lost for words. I have more questions. I want to take me back, because it's one thing to say, I want to teach myself how to surf. It's another thing to be like, and let's start a business. So take me back to like,
Yeah.
where were you professionally leading up to Nakoa being born?
Yeah, so I had left my corporate career in 2015. I was a corporate recruiter, first started in New York City in advertising.
Okay.
Absolutely loved the dynamic of that industry, and then was poached by Hawaiian Airlines to then relocate and do corporate recruiting for them in Hawaii. So I moved to Hawaii from New York. And
Okay.
it was through those 4 years in New York and in Hawaii that I knew that the corporate space was not for me, because for me, I wanted to have fun and I wanted to, which I did have fun in
What?
advertising. I did. But then I felt like I also wanted to have I wanted to create wealth for myself. And I felt like at that point, I was already giving 60-hour weeks. And I was thinking, if I'm going any higher up the chain, I don't have more hours to get. Like, how does that
Mm.
work out? Because the demand, the stress, it gets higher as you move higher. And I was already maxed at my stress. I was having anxiety. I was, again, 4 years in, so very early. And I was thinking,
Yeah.
this is not for me. I don't know what it is, but it's not this. So I ventured out in 2015, ended up cultivating this platform for myself as Kanoa Greene, as a speaker, model, influencer, content creator, as we call them now.
Mm.
Who knows what
Oh,
it
in
will be called
2015,
tomorrow?
that's very like ahead of the time.
It really was. She was posting to all but 5 people, but we grew that platform. And that's when I was starting to discover adventure for myself, not with any idea that I would ever grow that into a business, because it truly was for me. How do I tap into the strength for myself, especially mentally going into entrepreneurship, and how to tie that with like the physical strength? So for me, it was like this connecting point of, as I was getting physically stronger and physically adventurous in my own personal journey, it was then kind of latching on to what I was doing professionally. And I kind of tandem it. It wasn't until 2018 when I started to take on surfing a lot. I shared my whole journey again as a content creator, and people were coming to me asking me if there was a space for them to learn how to surf as a plus size man or woman. And I knew that there was a huge disconnect in the adventure space, but when I looked in there, I actually was literally surprised to see that there wasn't anything available. There wasn't a plus size surf school. There weren't plus size surf retreats that were available out there. And so for me, I really felt a personal responsibility. I felt bad about going back to someone and saying, sorry, I couldn't find it. Good luck. Like that, just to
Mm.
me, it's like, that felt like the worst thing I could possibly do. So I literally said, I was like, what would you guys think if I just try to put something together? It's not going to be fancy. It's not, I'm sure it's going to feel kind of crunchy as I do this, but I'm willing to put myself out there and at least create something small so we can put that out there. And that was to launch in 2019, 2020 is when we finally finalized that. COVID happened. But it always stuck
Yeah.
with me that this is something that needs to happen. And so coming out of COVID, we were able to move forward with the first one in Greece in 2021. And then since then, we've been able to do a lot of different types of outdoor sports and adventures in different destinations.
Ah,
Yeah, so left corporate, moved back to New York because I was like, you know what? I'm going to work part-time while I figure out what I'm doing with my life. And we all know, you can make some great money in New York City. And I knew I could do it part-time working in finance as a corporate recruiter, and it would make
mm.
up the difference. So I was able to work 20 hours a week, making the same money I did as a full-time
Oh,
salary
okay.
while I figured it out. I had, in that year that I was living in New York, I ended up losing my eyesight in my right eye. Just a circumstance of really nothing that I could prevent, but had a surgery, a procedure to correct a retinal tear that was happening. Unfortunately, the surgery is what caused me to go blind. So I'm 90% blind permanently in my right eye. I had moved to Hawaii
Oh.
to recuperate because I felt like, slower pace. It's hard to slow down in the city. It really is in New York City. So I was like, let me go back to Hawaii and recuperate. And that's where, as my world was crumbling apart and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life, it put a lot of things in perspective for me. Losing your eyesight, not knowing how you're going to navigate the world that you were in, and it changed overnight. It put things in perspective in a way for me where I no longer cared what people thought. And I thought, if this is the worst that could happen, what's to say that I can't, be a little bit more daring in the decisions of my life, right? Nothing is promised you, essentially. And so that's when
Mm.
I was like, well, there may not be a wetsuit out there and I may be too fat for this board, but I'm going to at least go out there and try. It was
Wow.
I mean, I was no longer afraid of the embarrassment, those things, the comments, the fear that people would be looking at me. It really went away through that experience, which I'm so thankful for, because God forbid, I never want that to happen to someone, but it really took something so extreme to happen to me
Mm.
for me to finally say, you know what, I'm going to step out and do this. So now I tell people like skiing, rock climbing, paddleboarding, surfing, all of those things I did as a visually impaired person, whereas before I never would have given myself permission to do those.
Man, thank you for sharing that. And I'm thinking, yeah, I mean, it's almost it's, I don't know if are you a Bridgerton fan?
Yes,
Do you like Bridgerton?
I
So
do.
the most recent season was Penelope season. I'm coming, don't worry, it's connected, I promise. And the lead actress,
Doesn't have to be, but
well, I know in your ADHD brain, you're like, wee, let's go, wee. Let's see what's in this door. Forget about the point of the podcast. Anyway, so Nicola Coughlan is the actress who plays Penelope. People are like foisting upon her this like, you are the plus size heroine we have been waiting for, and I'm
Right.
like, this girl's probably like a size 8, solid 8, 10. You know what I mean?
Thank
But
you.
anyway, people were congratulating her on being so brave. You're so brave. You're so brave to like put your body on display, and to have these nude scenes and whatnot. And I almost I think about how people must put a lot of energy to you, like, you're so brave to put your body out there, and you're like, bitch, I can't see out of one of my eyeballs. If you want to congratulate me for being brave,
Right.
like, one of my whole eyeballs is not functioning, and I'm out here, congratulate me on that. Okay, having this body, like, you know what I mean?
I
It's
do.
just wild because they're so afraid of fat, they're so afraid of
Yes.
like taking up space in their own self, that it makes them just see that about us sometimes, I
Yeah.
feel like. And
And it's a reflection of society because, I was taught that. I never questioned whether or not I could do something because I was visually impaired, but I always question when it comes to my weight and my size. Again,
oh,
surfing, I can still go out there as a visually impaired person and people will adjust and adapt. But going out there as a plus size woman, it's a different response from people. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm
mm,
sure that person who is partially blind out there on their platform sharing is not getting the trolls and the comments that we do as plus size people just out here in the world trying to do those same things. It really is a reflection of what we value in our societies, which is unfortunate. I was discovering strength and confidence in my body while simultaneously having to deal with the fact that I was now
mm,
partially blind and visually impaired, that it almost takes on its own life. I don't think about them. I'm just me. And people are surprised to tell when I do talk about myself being visually impaired because it's probably the thing I talk about least. And I'm so used to it. And it's
yeah.
so just a part of how I navigate life. And but I feel like the thing that I constantly hold is more of my weight and my size. Like it's the thing that I
Mm,
have to carry with more care, I think, navigating this world.
mm. What has your relationship been over the years? I mean, now you're in your 40s and you have this business, but I'm curious, how's your relationship with exercise been? Because I think for a lot of people who grow up in larger bodies, it always feels like something. I mean, for me, and it must be for myself, like you kind of grow up feeling like, oh, I should be doing that. And the goal must be to become smaller.
Right.
And I'm just wondering what your experience has been like and how that
Yeah.
shifted.
That was a lot of the narrative that I had going on in my head when I was growing up was that, as a 7, 8, 9 year old who was overweight, plus size, I was always presented with activity as a means for me to lose weight so I could be smaller, I could be beautiful, worthy, accepted, all of those things. And that's what I carried around with me. I had a terrible relationship with exercise because I really went into the space feeling ashamed of myself as initially, and then working out didn't help that. It was like,
Mm,
I had these expectations of it had to look a certain way, but if it didn't, because I was larger and I had to move differently, or I couldn't move as long, it was just, I had all of this noise in my head. And again, it wasn't until I went into everything happening, leaving my corporate career because I wanted to find joy in what I was doing in my work. Well, why can't that be joy in movement. Like what does that look like? And again, it was doing all of that work simultaneously. And that's how I ended up finding movement that worked for me. Hiking, I was like, I love this. And I'm strong, and I'm not thinking about losing weight. I'm thinking about, how can I now go back to the gym and work on, incorporating a leg day so that my legs can take me higher up of this mountain, or maybe doing more cardio so that I'm not completely dying like halfway
Yeah.
up there. And now taking movement from a place where I'm no longer judging my body for what it can't do, but now I'm celebrating my body for all the things that it can do and how I can continue building it to do more of the things that I love. So now for me, I am a fitness professional. I love, teaching groups of people to move with joy and celebration, because now I go into the gym and instead of thinking, oh my goodness, like I have this belly, my thighs are rubbing together, blah, 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 all of these things, I go into the space of, awesome, what can I do today that's going to help me surf longer when I'm back out there? What's going to help me go higher on the mountain? I get to condition and train myself as an athlete, and my perspective has allowed me to do that. I think as larger people, people don't give us permission to do that, I struggle with that, because straight size people, you're like, yeah, I can go to the gym and I'm working out as an athlete, and you're trying to condition for something. But when we see someone in a larger body, it's like, oh no, they're not training to be athletic. They need to, move to lose weight. So I've changed that narrative for myself and the people within my space, because I feel like that's a more empowering way to approach it. And I think a more joyful way, right? We want to have fun. We want to be excited about things.
All right. Well, I mean, 1,000%. Okay, amazing. All right. So with Nakoa, you have these basically how many day, like multi-day international trips. You said these really got kicked off in 2021. How have those evolved, and what is it like? What's that experience like for someone now? And by the way, I will be signing up for one in 2025. It's happening. I have to go.
They are multiple day trips. It really kind of teeters the line between an adventure trip and a retreat. It's kind of like a meld between both, because it really is a way to help introduce people within the plus size community at any spectrum, right? Because even within plus size, you'll see some experiences or studios, whatever that is, that have weight limits. And for me, the goal is always to have no weight limits and no restrictions, because I truly want you to be able to come and do the thing. And so we curate our itineraries as such. And so you come, we'll do a lot of different things. Initially in Greece, it was paddle boarding, a little bit of hiking, nature walking, like, to really help people be comfortable being in the outdoors and doing active things. And then this year we just did, in 2024, we did 4 different adventures. So we incorporated surfing, hiking in Switzerland, taking slow hikes. You can come at your own pace. Like, you don't have to, you have the options to do what you want to do. And they just keep growing, and honestly, out of the need of there to just be more inclusivity in these different sports, right? That's what I'm driven by. It's what do people want to do, and where are we really struggling with the gear, the equipment, and the resources to help people get out there and do them. Because the reality is, I work with a lot of brands when it comes to the apparel in some of these active spaces, both in fitness and in outdoor. But one of the other disconnects is the gear. And I understand from a commerce position that, brands don't necessarily want to invest in that money if there's not a market for it. And I get that. Plus size people aren't out there because they don't have the things, right? So it needs to work both ends, which is what Nakoa has done, and how I see it is, it is working it from both ends to help people get out there, but then also really pushing brands to create these things for this community that can do these things and wants to.
What are some examples of gear, like changes in gear that you want to see?
I think the wetsuit, I'm never surfing in cold water. I'll just say that right now. But but there are a lot of people around this world who need to, and the fact that there just aren't options is really unfortunate. It's probably the piece here that I get asked about the most in regards to recommendations, and I never I never have any. So I think that's a big one because it'll open up multiple sports and activities for people within our community.
Kanoa, can I go skiing? Is there a ski suit that would fit me?
Yes. You're
I'm the
smaller
same
than I
size,
am. Yes.
2022.
No.
No, I'm like a
Yeah,
2022.
there's some options out there. I mean, the great thing is
Okay.
that
Do
every
they make them
year we
elastic? I want like
see
stretch. I want a Spanx. I want to look snatched, you know? I don't
You're
want
like
to see.
me.
The thing is, it's like, yeah, there's a size for
Yeah.
you. It'll be like mustard orange, and it'll, it'll have like,
First of all, anyone who knows
like
me,
it'll have a cold
I'm
shoulder. It'll have like a doily
asymmetrical.
attached. Yeah, it'll
For
be
me,
peplum.
it's
It'll be
like
a peplum skin, a peplum ski suit.
I need there to be a hot pink or a neon like I'm
Yeah.
anyone who knows me, I love to look fabulous. So this idea that if it's plus size it has to be black and boring, I'm not about that. There is actually cute snow gear that's been coming out. There's a few brands that do it. I have a ski suit that is all lavender. She is so adorbs.
Oh, what's the brand?
Just that one is True, TREW. And they go up to 4X.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're getting out there. I still don't really have a desire to ski. I don't like being cold.
I know, but I think it's the whole thing. Then you could just go to après ski, go to the lounge, have a cocktail.
Yeah, the vibe. I love you know what I do love is getting a inflatable and taking that down a really slippery slope after it snows. Now that is I could get into that, but and then some hot chocolate after that, and just we're only outside.
Well, they had Black Ski Week, so I'm going to Black Ski Week.
What's that?
I
can imagine what it is, but I've never heard of it.
It's Black folk getting out there, not just skiing, but snowboarding, snowmobiling. It's a whole vibe. Yeah. Everyone looks so cute and fabulous. It's a week, 2025. It's happening February 22nd through March 5th. So it's a whole week of activities. I'm going to go the first few days and I'm super excited. It'll be my first time going. Super excited.
Whoa. Where's that? Like in Colorado or something?
I think they change the location every year, but yeah, this year it's going to be in Keystone, Colorado.
Ooh, nice. Okay. All right. So what would you say to someone who's listening right now and who is working really hard on that relationship with movement, being for joy, for strength versus to be smaller?
I would say the first step would be try something that you love to do. Like try a movement that you love or are excited to do, right? And it doesn't have to be doing that thing you saw an influencer do on TikTok that is like the best move for a great butt. You're forcing yourself to do it because you heard, or being on the Stairmaster because you heard somewhere that that's the biggest calorie burner. It's like, do something that you generally are just curious and want to do and you think would be fun. Because I think that kind of takes it away from, I have to do this thing for a result. And it allows you to experience movement in a space that is purely for joy. And there is a point where you realize you will be sweating and panting and whatever that thing is. I guarantee. I've done almost every type of movement that's out there. And I'm like, there's not a time where I'm not working my body in some way. You are gaining strength. You are moving the needle in regards to maybe what your fitness goals are if you have those. But I think that's just a really great, kind place to start, is just to let yourself explore and have a little fun in that space. Because now, I mean, the reality is I can go and do, workouts that I generally don't necessarily have the most fun in, but I can generate joy in them because I know where it's moving me in the space of, adventure and the things that I love to do and condition my body in those ways. But it took work to do it. I mean, it didn't happen overnight.
Yeah. I mean, I have these seasons where I think I am really healthy about my perception of my body and what it can do and feeling that movement. But for me, mental health has been it's so tied to my movement and whether I'm doing it, even though in so many ways movement for me is the answer to improving my mental health. when you're in one of those, like I go up and down. I have depressive cycles like most people do, I feel like.
Yeah.
But in the past couple of years, I've had 2 kids, and that has impacted me in different ways. And I mean, there's just all sorts of things. All sorts of things have impacted mental health. But um, as I am as I am like getting my body moving again in a way that I hadn't been probably for like, I don't know, the better part of 2023 and 2024, just like not really moving like I was, I started to feel a lot weaker. And and
Mm-hmm.
things that I had done before, it was hard to not compare myself to what I was doing. I was like, oh, I used to walk 3 miles a day when I was 9 months pregnant with my first child 5 years ago. And now I'm walking up the hills in my neighborhood and I'm like wheezing. And I've had to work on like just being a little bit gentler with myself. But one of the
Mm-hmm.
things that has been a little troubling for me is that so I started to see a trainer because, I wanted to gain muscle because I was like, oh, I feel weaker. I've never really done any weight training. So I work with a trainer and we started doing 3 a week sessions back in August. And I kept, and I was feeling stronger and feeling better. And I was doing the thing. I was pushing myself more every time. I want to get this, I want to do that, make it heavier, heavier, heavier. And then my body broke down.
Mm-hmm.
And it literally 2 weeks ago, it told me to sit my ass down. My elbow was like pop, 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 pop. And I was like, oh, what's that? Try again. Ow. And then my calf went, and I have just sort of like had to slow down, and I realized,
Yeah.
uh-oh, what I thought was a healthy way of approaching fitness, I quickly had this like disordered way of looking at it, and was doing more and more in it, and I moved away
Yeah.
from this is to feel good, to feel strong.
It's always going to be a journey. I maybe struggle with it less frequently now because I've strengthened that muscle, right? That mental muscle. But it's not that I don't ever face that. I will tell you, like, this year has been similar to what you're saying. 3 years ago, I was teaching multiple workouts a day, recording multiple workouts a day, going. This year, could my body do that? No. Like, it was.
All right, so Kanoa, as an entrepreneur, that is something that obviously really suits your personality. Now you are doing these trips. You said you run several businesses.
Always say, like, entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. I truly don't believe it's for everyone, and I don't believe that we all need to think that it does. We're definitely in an era where everyone's really pushing becoming an entrepreneur, but really is not for everyone because,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I would say I do love it. It is the thing that I was meant to do, and I just had a conversation Wednesday with a friend where I told her if I won the lottery, I would still wake up and do this. Like, it is what I was made to do. But is it hard? Absolutely. This year, last year, 2024 was a hard year, a lot of growth, a lot of business growth. I had to push myself as a leader. And so that's never comfortable or easy or pretty.
Wait, what's an example of a way that you pushed yourself as a leader?
I think having to make a lot of hard decisions. I'm someone who my personal brand is very bubbly, very up, and my joy in life is to be your encourager and cheerleader. So when I have to deal with partners that just don't meet me at the level of expectation that we have agreed upon, and it's not
Oh.
working out well, it is hard for me to kind of have to shift out of this hyper bubbly pixie dust Barbie and get into like
Oh,
this serious thing. And
okay.
I had to do that a lot in 2024, because I really do want to build things in excellence. And yeah, it's a non-negotiable for me. So
Is it that it's difficult for you to bring out that like badass, like lay down the law side, or is it that they are uncomfortable with it because they think they're going to get pixie dust, Kanoa?
I think it's a combination of both, but I truly believe that I have, and I'm working through it in therapy, because I think a lot of it is perception, right? I don't want to be perceived as like the angry Black woman. So, but I also want to be very clear and
Mm.
concise in my communication, and I don't want to damper down what I want to get across, but I think I've struggled with how to do that from a place of compassion and love, because the plus size community, I am so passionate and I am so protective of that community, because I know that they've probably navigated through life feeling so dumped on. And this is something that I really want them to be built up and empowered in. So I really take it seriously. But I think that passion sometimes gets a little bit, she gets a little serious.
Girl, that does sound complicated. It sounds like a lot of work to take on for
It
yourself.
sounds like a lot
I
of
don't know about that,
therapy.
Kanoa. I want to be like, it's important to make people feel good about themselves, but also, Kanoa, that might be a bit much. That sounds like a lot of, you already have so much on your plate with your community, you know,
Yeah.
and as a member of that, I would call myself a member of the community, and I'm just like, don't sweat it, girl. Just tell
No,
them how
no.
it is and moving, keep it moving. 2025 is going to be like a building year, and you're not going to have like some in-person travel adventures.
The goal is to have some, because I don't think we can go from 4 to 0. And again, we're the only company brand that's doing what we do, how we do it. And I want to offer something. So we're looking at creative ways of doing that while we simultaneously figure out how to bring it back bigger than where we kind of left off in 2024.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, I hope you continue nurturing this brand that you've built. And I know how fragile it can be when you're a business owner and you are also the personality behind it and you are building a community. And it is, I think we need to check in on your Black girl business owner
Yes.
friends, because all the research I'm doing for my book now, it genuinely is extremely difficult to become a mature business owner. It's one thing for us to be the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs, but the reality of building and taking it to that next level and the next level after that, and preserving our sanity and, the other parts of life that bring us joy and wellness,
Yes.
it's hard AF.
I mean, you
It's
hit
hard
the nail on
AF.
the head. The preservation part, I always tell people that the process needs to be joyful and fun for me. And if that means it's slower than I've perceived in my mind that it should be, I think that's one of the things New York did me a disservice, is because everything moves at the speed of light and everyone is a type A and a go-getter and a hustler. And that's so the culture there. And for me now, it's been unlearning that and allowing myself to go slower. And even though other people are building and going faster, it does not mean that I'm not successful. It doesn't mean that I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I know that my businesses will continue to grow and thrive, but I will simultaneously be happy and rested and self-cared throughout the whole thing.
Oh my goodness. I hope so. And I hope that that you've got a friend over here who gets it. Well, I am so happy that we finally made this happen, Kanoa. Thank you for
Same.
being one of our first guests of the new year. Where can people go to find out more and to get on whatever list they got to get on so they know about your next trips of 2025?
For Nakoa Adventure, nakoaadventure.com is the place to go. For all things that is me, on Instagram, Kanoa Greene.
All right, babe.